I do want to play this nonsense from Politics Girl. Haven't seen her in a while, but this is her video saying, I guess it's getting around. This is the establishment putting out a authentic video from a real worker. This is such a set that she has that's supposedly her real house. This is such a set that she has to appear like she's a regular worker, but she's working for the establishment. Let's listen to what she says. This is her video saying it's ridiculous to call Republicans and Democrats the same. This is what we've been pushing, and it's gotten to the powers that be, as so much so that they've decided to put out this propaganda to say, what do you mean? The Democrats are way better. Let's listen.
Hi, I'm hoping we can finally put to rest this ridiculous idea that both parties are the same. I could go back and forth on the policies and position differences between Republicans and Democrats. I could contrast the criminal records of both anticipated presidential candidates. I could do a side-by-side comparison of how the two parties feel about women, gay people, trans people, the free press, democracy. Hey, I could compare the economy and how it fares under Democrats and Republicans, but spoiler alert, it does way better under Democrats. I could talk about which party is banning books, which party passes laws to make democracy harder, and which passes them to make it easier. I could talk about which party keeps shutting down the government. But ultimately, my goal would be to illustrate that
you notice she's saying, I could talk about these things, but I can't, as she's talking about the things she says she can't talk about. And she continues in this manner. Let's continue.
Two parties are not the same. And I don't think anything proves that point better than the week of September 18th, 2023. That one random week in American government told us more about the two.
So forget about the donors. Forget about that. How they have the same donors. Forget about how they have the same war policy. Forget about how they have the same policy against workers, how they have the same policy towards capitalism, how they have the same policy of having no healthcare system. Forget about all of that. She's going to say, this one day out of this 1 week illustrates why there's such a huge difference. None of the long-standing legislation or policy beliefs, none of that matters. You know, the larger indicators, this matters. So let's play this. Or let's finish this, I should say.
Parties than any useless poll could ever do. So I'm just going to walk us through what happened. And by the end, I hope you'll see, as those of us who follow this stuff closely do, that there's no question as to which party really deserves your support. So the week in question, the Biden administration took the first steps to remove medical bills from people's credit scores, to improve the credit rating of millions of Americans who had the bad luck of getting sick. Now, this decision comes from the same party who brought us the Affordable Care.
I mean, when you're talking crumbs, this person is getting crumbs of crumbs of crumbs and presenting them as some sort of large chasm between the Democratic Party and the Republican Party. And this first example is just terrible. To improve the credit scores, you wiped away debt, or you did something to improve in credit scores? Did you give them better health care? You did something to improve credit scores. Okay, let's see what else she lists.
Care Act made it illegal to deny people insurance for pre-existing conditions and just passed legislation to lower prescription.
Made it illegal for deny people for pre-existing conditions. You just make the insurance to where no one can afford it. And you make the copays prohibitive so you can't even use it. But this is a plus that she wants us to give her.
Prescription drug prices.
Then she mentions the prescription drug prices. Let's let her play this. Oops.
Affordable Care Act made it illegal to deny people insurance for pre-existing conditions and just passed legislation to lower prescription drug prices.
Lower prescription drug is like a handful of drugs, and it doesn't even start, I think, until 2025. But we're supposed to give you credit in 2023 for something that hasn't even launched.
In contrast, the Republicans voted against lowering prescription drug prices, are proposing cutting Medicare and Medicaid, and tried to repeal the Affordable Care Act 70 times. The
Affordable Care Act is a freaking disaster. And this is what they like to lean on. The Affordable Care Act gave millions of people, or maybe it's thousands of people, millions of people, let's give them more credit, give millions of people Medicaid. People that are dirt poor and can't afford health care. Isn't that great, CJ? Is it? Oh, you mean the thing, in order to qualify, you have to be in a perpetual state of poverty. You mean that thing?
Republicans are funded heavily by Big Pharma, so they clearly don't care how much money it costs to be sick, but they definitely...
She got the audacity. Let's listen to this.
The Republicans are funded heavily by Big Pharma, so they...
The Republicans are funded heavily by Big Pharma. Is that even serious? Joe Biden, Jim Clyburn. I think Jim Clyburn is one of the top people of all pharmaceutical money in all of Congress.
Clearly don't care how much money it costs to be sick, but they definitely don't care if your credit gets dinged when you can't pay for it.
Credit.
The same week, President Biden announced the first ever White House Office of Gun Violence Prevention because, as he said, thoughts and prayers are not enough. The Republican position for years has been that guns are...
And this legislation is not enough. Let's get through this one again. Let me rewind just to remind myself what she was just saying.
Thoughts and prayers are not enough. The Republican...
They're leaning on this very do nothing legislation, gun legislation. Like it literally does very minimal crumbs.
Position for years has been that guns are our God-given right. There's nothing we can do about the deaths. And they supported laws that said we couldn't even research gun violence, let alone try and do anything about it. The week of September 18th, Biden made a plan to go...
And just to be clear, guns aren't the problem. Getting rid of guns isn't the fix for the problem of guns. Fixing economics is the solution to crime. If you're a person who says, I'm serious about alleviating crime in an area, my first question would be, what is the economic plan that you have to fix the crime in the area? If your plan is militarily, and I'm talking about the police state, then you're not serious about fixing crime, and that includes gun control. You're not serious about fixing crime. You're serious about putting a lid on the boiling water, not actually making the water not boil.
Go to Michigan to join the picket line with United Auto Workers of America because, in his words, the union workers are fighting for their fair share of the value they helped create. While Republican presidential candidates, despite Donald Trump's photo shoot with union workers, all subscribe to union buster positions, with Tim Scott saying the quiet part out loud, if you strike, you should be fired. Simple as...
Yeah, I'm not going to get through this whole video. I didn't, and I watched the first minute. I didn't realize it was going to be so many things I had to debunk here. This is a 5-minute video too. There's so many things I have to debunk. So I'm going to have to dedicate an actual where she's on the thumbnail. Because this is a lot.
Workers all subscribe to union buster position.
So yeah, this union part, you got the audacity.
Their fair share of the value they helped create. While Republican presidential candidates join the picket line with United Auto Workers anything about it. The week of September 18th, Biden made a plan to go to Michigan to join the picket line with United Auto Workers of America because, in his words, the union workers are fighting for their fair share of the value they helped create. While Republican presidential candidates, despite Donald Trump's photo shoot with union workers, all subscribe to union buster positions, with Tim...
Union buster positions. Joe Biden busted a union late last year. How are you able to say these things knowing this stuff about this guy? And shame on the UAW president, Sean Fain. I will call him a sellout at this point. Shame on him for giving Biden the ability to even have anybody argue that he's pro-labor after he broke a strike. Now people like this can propagandize people by using that.